Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be painting 24 Tomb King's archers. I've pre-assembled these models and I've given them an undercoat of red primer followed by a heavy overspray of white primer. As you can see, I have the models all arranged on 3 strips of wood so I can batch paint them. The first colour up today, as you would expect, is going to be Pallid Bone. It's going to be used to paint the entire model, minus the bow and the quiver. I've used this method of batch painting many times in the past. Simply go to a hardware store or local lumber yard and get some strip wood. I got a 4-foot length, which I then cut into 4 strips of equal length. I've been using this same 4 strips of wood for many years when I've been batch painting models. Now you need some way of attaching the models to the wood temporarily. I use double-sided tape that I bought from a local hardware store. Again, you should be able to buy it at any pound shop or dollar store or euro store. That's the Pallid Bone done on all the models. Now I'm going to use some dead white to cover up some of my mistakes. Because I've been very liberal with the Pallid Bone, just sloshing it around, it's hit the bows and it's hit the quivers. So now's the time to clean that up. You don't even really need to clean it up, but I do like to clean it up because I like the colours that I use to all be the same with no dark areas, and if you paint over a darker colour you will get a darker effect. So hence why you'll see me using white paint an awful lot. This step is pretty time consuming as you're doing batch painting models. You're doing quite a lot. I'm doing 24 here. It's up to you how many you paint at a time. I've decided that I'm going to do 24 archers from the big box set that the Tomb Kings was released with. It's up to you how many you make. I've settled initially on 48 spearmen, 2 units of 24, and 24 archers, probably in 2 units of 12. Next up is going to be gold, and I'm going to use Hoplite Gold, and I'm going to use it to paint the metal ends of the bows, and I'm going to use it to paint the headbands that are on some of the skeletons, and the chest plates and back plates that are on some of the skeletons. I'm also going to use it to paint the tail end of the quiver, just to break up the colour. You'll also see that I've used magic blue on some of the quivers here. This is an experiment, and a failed experiment at that. I definitely don't recommend this colour for this project. You can see what you think of it here as the video rolls. I don't like it, and it's going to get painted white. Again, that's why I use a lot of white paint, because I'm forever changing my mind about things. Now I'm going to try a colour called Tidal Wave, which is a slightly lighter colour than the magic blue. You can see what you think. I didn't particularly like this colour either, so it didn't stay. The reason I've left these pieces of video in is just to show you that you can try different things, and if you don't like it you can always go back and change it. Next colour up is going to be Caribbean Ocean. This is the colour that I eventually settled on. I think hopefully you'll agree with me that it's the nicest colour. It ends up being the nicest colour on the models, at least compared to the other blues that I tried. Yet again, I'll say you don't have to stick with the colours that I'm using. Choose whatever colours you like the look of. I just particularly like this colour. Don't know why, I just do. And again, you want to be as neat as you can here, especially when painting the cross straps over the chests of the skeletons, because although you can quite easily go in with the white paint again and touch up any mistakes and then go over it again with Pallid Bone, the less you hit the skeleton, the less work you'll have to do eventually. And these models are all about getting them done to a reasonable standard as quickly as possible. I realise this isn't very exciting to watch, but I'm just trying to let you see how I batch paint, and maybe you might take some advice from it. Maybe you might have a different method for batch painting. I'm just letting you see how I do it. Next up is Satchel Brown, and I'm going to use it to paint the tops of the quivers and the cross straps on some of the skeletons. Some of the skeletons are wearing a chest plate or a breastplate and a back plate, so the straps I'll fill in with this Satchel Brown. Again, this is an easy job, but it's kind of time consuming when you're painting 24 of them and trying to be reasonably careful. Next colour up is going to be Slaughter Red, and I'm going to use it to paint the bows. I've decided to run with a speed paint version of the box art colour, hence why I'm sticking with red for the bows. And I guess Games Workshop painting team picked these colours for a reason, because they do work really well together on an undead army. One thing that has been surprising about these Speedpaints 2.0 is that they dry really quickly, maybe too quickly, but it's a pleasant surprise actually, because I'm used to having to wait for a coat of paint to dry. Next colour up is going to be Agrax Earthshade. I'm going to use it to hit the quills on the arrows, and I'm going to use it to hit some of the gold on the skeletons, basically just to give it a bit of depth. This is a very quick and easy job, and it's kind of hard to go wrong. Even if you hit other parts of the skeleton, you're just going to add a bit of shading. It's not a big deal. That's the models finished. Now onto the bases. I'm going to use some of this AK Interactive Beach Sand as a base. I've found now that if you use an old paintbrush to paint it on, you can get through these quite quickly. It's basically just a paint in it's almost like painting yogurt or like a melted ice cream. The nice thing about it is it doesn't run around the place, so it goes where you put it, and it seems to hold its shape quite well. You can paint shape into it if you want. The AK Interactive stuff is good, but it is too smooth for my liking. So I have found adding a layer of fine sand over the top of it is just what I prefer. I've seen guys using this AK Interactive basing material and making it look outstanding. I just don't have the know-how to make it look outstanding, so I'm going to do what I do. I'm going to put some sand over the top of it and then give it a wash and then a dry brush. Next up is going to be a Citadel contrast paint called Aggaros Dunes, and I'm going to use it heavily diluted, 1 part paint to 2 parts water, and that's because I want to use it as a very light wash over the sand. It flows really easily like this, and it dries quite quickly as well. You should be able to do your dry brushing in the same painting session. Next colour up is going to be Citadel Screaming Skull, and that's the colour I'm going to use to dry brush my sand. You may well hit the legs of the skeletons, but it doesn't matter because they're skeletons and this is skeleton colour, so we get away with it. I have lots of plans for this undead army, so I'm going to be doing a lot more videos on how I paint it. Again, I'm not a painting expert, I'm not a professional painter, I'm just an average Joe trying to get his miniatures to a reasonable standard and get them on the table and get them all killed as quickly as possible. Now my bases look reasonably like a desert or sand at least, but using these tufts really sets them off in my opinion. So I highly recommend the Army Painter tufts. I'm using Deadland and the Highlands tufts. Use whatever you've got. Go to your favourite local hobby gaming shop and buy a couple of packs of these. They're not expensive and you should probably get an entire army or close to it out of both of these packs, and even if you have to buy a couple of packs of them, they still work out very reasonably priced considering the effect that they give. And now to tidy up the edges of the bases, I'm going to use Coat d'Arms Flat Earth. Very similar colour would be the Vallejo Flat Earth up in the top left hand corner of the screen, or any other. Snakebite Leather from Games Workshop would also be a viable colour, or any sort of tan brown, light brown. At least that's the colour I'm choosing. It's entirely up to you what way you... Some people like black, but I don't. I think it's too harsh, but that's just personal opinion. And here we'll have the finished article, at least as finished as they're going to be for now. They're perfectly serviceable on the tabletop as far as I'm concerned. Yes, they could be painted slightly better, they could still do with a bit of a touch up here and there, but they'll do for the time being. They're ready to go, they're ready to stick lots of arrows of the asp in some Bretonian heads. Isn't that right, Mr. Pointy Paints? Anyway, chances are they're all going to die horribly, so do them a favour and hit the old subscribe button so you can see how horribly they do die. And I appreciate you very much for watching this. I'm quite surprised that you're even bothered, but it makes me happy. Gives me a warm fuzzy glow inside. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.